Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video with myself, Mike and Sloth. And yeah, signing number 4 is in the bag. As recording, Kudus has just been announced, but this video is all about a Brazilian. Tim Steiden does not mess about. He's back on the plane out to Brazil to try and sign another player. This time a forward-thinking player in Yuri Alberto. Not a name many people will be familiar with. Still only 22 years old, so our job is obviously to break it down for those that don't possibly know who he is and potentially what he could bring to this West Ham team. So the name Yuri Alberto, talk to me a little bit about his kind of background, Mike, before we kind of get in the statistics and kind of how he's found himself back in the Brazilian league. Because, you know, it wasn't too long ago he actually moved to a European team for quite a big fee, you were saying.
Yeah, so this might be stealing a bit of Sloss thunder here on this bit. But yeah, basically he started off at, sorry for pronunciation, Internazionale, broke through at 18 and left on a free contract to go to Corinthians, did fairly well, then got the dream move to then Europe, went and played for Zenit and, you know, went for about 20 million euros, so a decent price. Russia then got very grabby with Ukraine. So, you know, things went a bit south there. So like most players that were kind of in Russia or in Ukraine, they kind of were getting that ability to, you know, cancel their contracts, which has obviously happened. Great for Corinthians because they got him back. So they got £15 million for him, or 20 million. 50 million pounds, that's right. And then they've managed to get him back completely for free. And so, yeah, it's an interesting one in how he's kind of moved recently. Obviously, he burst through. It's been pretty good scoring form. I'm pretty sure it was 36 goals and assists from the age of 18. I think for the first 2 years that he broke through, so up to 20. And that's pretty good going for an 18-year-old to kind of break through. Obviously, over 2 seasons, 36 goals and assists is pretty impressive. And, you know, Brazil isn't necessarily for the faint at heart of a league. It's quite physical and be quite robust. So he's done really quite well. And then obviously moved back. Hasn't necessarily hit as many goals this season. I think over the course of last year in all competitions, including in Russia, it was around about 18 goals and I think about 6-7 assists in total. So he does have goals in him. It's just maybe not been as free-flowing as people would hope this season.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, breaking down the stats from this season, obviously the Brazil League's kind of weird because their season starts at the start of the year. So they play around 20 games in the Serie A competition with other competitions as well. But we're just focusing on that. He scored 4 goals and got 2 assists this season. But last year it was slightly better return in front of goal. He got 8 goals and obviously 1 assist in Serie A. So it's not a bad return, nearly a goal every 2 games. And like you mentioned there before, he was, scoring really, quite prolifically in his kind of early years. And he's still only 22. Sloth, moving on to you before we break down the stats. Just off the bat of kind of what you've seen of him, what type of player is he before we kind of get into the underlying statistics?
He's really someone who will suit Moyes' system. Like there's no way to sugarcoat it. He is prone to the odd error, like really bad touch or just a silly decision. But it's not something that's going to get him sent off. It's literally just his brain. He'll have a brain fart. And so in that sense, he is essentially a young Antonio. He is 6 foot. He's very strong. Like he's got a very muscular build to him. But he's really quick and he works really hard. Like he creates a lot of opportunities for other players because of his pressing of defenders. So he does lead the line from the front. He tends to be a bit more of a second striker, but you wouldn't guess it because he's the one chasing players down, being that terrier and really causing problems for defenders.
Well, we've said that the striker coming in just going to kind of try and be that long-term replacement for Antonio. I mean, we've seen how important he is to that David Moyes team over the last few years. So getting in the right profile is key. Do you think that's probably why we're maybe even looking at outside of the kind of top 5 European leagues and maybe looking to profile someone who's a little bit more accustomed to how Antonio plays? So maybe we can develop him into someone that eventually can perform in the Premier League like Antonio has done for us.
I think he's definitely the sort of player who can become that. as we kind of said, like, he can play across the attack. So very similar to Antonio in that sense. His record as a centre forward is actually really quite good. I think he's played about 130 games there, and he's got about 15 assists and about 46 goals. So, it's a goal involvement every other game pretty much. And I think for that sort of age as well, that's not something to be sniffed at. He is a player who I think would be happy to come in as well and rotate. As I mentioned, he's got a good work ethic on the pitch. By all accounts, he's got that in training as well. So if you think, Moyes is going to start Antonio, and then after 70 minutes, if he says, go on, just cause problems, you're going to have a really quick, strong young player to just go and harass defenders and cause problems, which is perfect for us. I know we've also been linked with Pedro, and a few other accounts are kind of mentioning how he is the better striker. I think with him being 6'2" and a lot less mobile, you're going to almost have a repeat of an Allaire situation where you need mobile strikers, mobile players around him to get the best out of him.
And that's not what David Moyes wants, is it?
Exactly. So buying someone who suits our system is going to be the best way to get goals.
Well, let's break it down, the statistics from the last season. So not this year, the 2022 campaign in the Serie A. Mike, I'll let you do this because, you produced the report as always. So yeah, just talk me through the statistics and what kind of impressed you about these.
Yeah, so obviously this is the 2022 season. So this is the year he moved back to Corinthians. So it's not obviously the current season. But where we can see is obviously once he moved back, he's pretty much in where you want him to be. So from the terms of the attacking output, he's right on that medium line, if not above it. Obviously scored 8 goals last season. He overachieved arguably on the opportunities that he had. I'm not really going to go much into these, in all honesty, because I think it's important just to talk around what he can bring to us as a player and what some of the things that are encouraging. The encouraging aspects are the fact that he can finish with either foot, left foot or right foot, and there's no real difference in the quality of his ball striking in either
That's
foot.
massive in a striker these days, isn't it?
It is, and it's something that we've seen in Antonio, that at times his left foot is as good as his right, but then what we sometimes see of Antonio is that he doesn't take that moment to set himself, whereas with Yuri Alberto, he does not care about shooting. He will shoot from anywhere, inside, outside the box, left foot, right foot. If there's an opportunity to have a go, he will, and he's also got a decent header as well. So you can get crosses in. Whilst he's only 6 foot, there's a decent leap on him. As I say, that his finishing is fairly and pretty composed as well. As Sloth says, he does have those brain fart moments, which is why when you look at kind of his, some of his possession pieces, like his accuracy in passes. But however, we can caveat that because when you compare most strikers, their passing isn't at the level where you go, oh, that's amazing in terms of their completions. But he does progress play well. He's happy to carry it. If we go on to what Antonio said before, in that a David Moyes striker needs to fight and be willing to play off scraps. Now, Corinthians, quite frankly, haven't been the Corinthians team that probably people will think they've been, because they'll remember back when Carlos Tevez was there, and also as Mascherano as a team that were fighting towards the top end. These are very middle of the road kind of team now in Brazil, and he will fight for everything. He's not the most refined, he's not the most graceful. However, he's incredibly hardworking. Does have good feet, as I said, he good header of the ball as well if given the opportunity, and he will do the things that we want, which is run the channels, do that horrible donkey work that some strikers don't want to do. And to Sloth's point around Pedro, he operates well within the 18-yard area, Pedro, and that's not really how we can get a striker working unless we play a 2 up top. And we don't play a 2 up top. So that kind of striker, whilst it could get you goals, which we saw again with Scamacca, it can get you goals and they will get you goals.
Yeah.
However, they don't necessarily complement you as a whole team, and they only then kind of interact with the team in fits and spats, and they don't necessarily excel because they don't want to do the other aspects because it's not natural within their game. And it's not that they don't want to do it because they're lazy. It's, as I say, it's just not natural within their game. It's not something that they instinctively will do. They're not instinctively chase a 20-yard punt down the pitch that's going into a channel.
You know? Yeah. Do you think there's an argument that maybe this move is a little bit out of the kind of depths of what we need when we have someone like Mubama in the ranks who could probably do a lot of these characteristics that you're kind of saying that Alberto can do? And yeah, it looks like Danny Ings might be being sold, whether it's this summer or in January. So, and we already know that Danny Ings does not suit that style of, you know, playing the lone striker under David Moyes, but we've seen Mubama show it. You know, he's still only young, but you know, bringing in someone like Yuri Alberto, what does that mean for Mubama? Is there a kind of a, would you rather see Mubama play it? That's my underlying question.
I'd be frustrated if I was him, because you've just been told, or it's just been kind of laid out over the summer, that you're going to be a big part of the team, and we play one central striker, and now we're looking at En-Nesyri and a Brazilian striker. Now, if you're him, you're then going, well, hang on, how am I going to be a vital part of that? Because 4 doesn't go into 1. Yes, we have 4 competitions. Yes, there's going to be AFCON. So if you bring in En-Nesyri, he's going to go. But the argument is, if you're going to keep Antonio and En-Nesyri, quite frankly, Antonio is going to play as much as En-Nesyri does, and that leaves your space limited. And if you bring in another striker, it pretty much means that you're going to get no football at all. So he's then left with, well, I need to go out on loan. However,
what would you guys rather see? Would you rather see Mubama kind of given minutes, or would you rather us sign someone like Alberto?
I'd rather Mubama. I'd always much prefer our own players. And we talked about this constantly about the Europa League registration. We need players who are club trained. Granted, he can go on list B, so he technically doesn't have to. But if we sign Luis Alberto as well as En-Nesyri, Luis Alberto probably can't be registered because of the registration rules. Because
I think it would probably be one or the other. I think it's unlikely we bring in 2.
I think it's 2. I don't think we're going to bring in Luis Alberto and not bring in En-Nesyri. I think I just don't see that being the case, because
I think if we let Danny Ings go, I think then we could bring in 2, but I don't see Ings going from now until the end of the window. I think it will just be one striker.
I think the difficult thing as well is that these are players who can play across the attack. You know, when Nesyri was coming through at Leganés, he was predominantly on that wing. So you know, I think if you're Moyes and you're thinking Alberto can play on the left side, Nesyri can play on the right side, and you know you can potentially get Bowen there as well, or Antonio. Those are, you know, athletic, big units who with pace who can cause you problems and can cause defenders problems. So I think there's a bit to say about kind of rotating in. I would even potentially say that maybe we'd be looking at the likes of Cornet leaving. I wouldn't be shocked if Ings does leave before the window goes. Something just tells me that either a newly promoted side will look to him as that's sort of season yeah, or even, you know, if a Saudi bid came in, I think we would consider it. But
would you guys be excited by Alberto coming in if it was to happen? If it was a loan with an option to buy, is that a move that excites you? Someone coming from the Brazilian league, 22
it would
years
excite
old.
me if that deal keeps Luis Paqueta past next year. That's as a deal how it would excite me. At the moment, there's not a huge amount to get excited about, because there are other Brazilians we've been linked to who have been far more exciting, such as Franca, who's gone obviously to Crystal Palace. We were looking at obviously Victor Roque as well. So they've been far more exciting ones. However, we've constantly advocated for exciting signings. They're not necessarily be all and end all. It's the smart signings, and he could be a smart signing, and that's the thing. I'm not necessarily that bothered about being excited, providing it's a smart signing, and he's one of those that could be a John Callieri, or he could be, the surprise package that everyone, like that we keep seeing at Brighton pick up. He could be one of those. He could also be a John Callieri. So it could go either way.
Yeah,
I think people have been a bit too negative in terms of the goal record that people are talking about. He is creative in terms of his assists. He's getting assists, and as I said, he causes a lot of problems with his pace and his size. And I kind of caveat it by saying, if we're looking to catch teams on the break, who else are you going to have in terms of being able to shrug off a defender, or just in a 50-50 beat someone to the ball? He would be a real asset to have. And I think if he was moving to sort of a side looking to establish themselves in the middle of the league, I think it'd be a really, really smart signing for them. Someone like my mind's gone completely blank, but someone who is looking to get, Brentford, even if they're looking to secure a middle of the table position and also kind of cover that athletic, quick player that they like, I think we'd be going, that's quite a smart signing. And he actually fits the way we play. He's quick, hardworking, and it's not a case of buying someone just because their goal record's good. I think he actually matches what we need. So
I also think people kind of saw that 30 to 40 second, failed comp clip that went round, and people will go quick in it. But the man's played how many games of football, and any footballer you could put together a failed comp.
So any single
it makes
one of
no
West
sense.
Ham players. You could, you could make Antonio look terrible. You can make Bowen.
Any player look terrible. Any player,
exactly.
Other than Messi.
To flash that up and be like, oh, this player doesn't look good. It's like you could do that, but you can do it about freaking Ronaldo and Messi. It'd be very difficult to find it, but. You
could definitely clip in Ronaldo's free kicks.
I think the point of it is that he's a striker that would suit the Moyes system. So, he's still 22 years old. There's plenty of room for development. He could come over. He's only coming on probably a loan with an option to buy. So we have that first season to see how he adapts. And, would you rather someone like this guy or Danny Ings? That's the question you have to ask yourself, because Danny Ings is on 150k a week with bonuses included. So it's a lot of money. And, if we're replacing someone like him, who, Danny Ings doesn't get that much football anyway, and you've got someone like Mubama, I'm all for a move like this. If it means, Antonio's still at the club, which it looks like he will be. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one develops. But Timmy's gone over to Brazil to work his magic, and I'm sure he'll bring us home a Brazilian gem in the course of his flight. So, yeah, that's going to be all for today. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel as always. And lads, until next time, one thing left to say.
Come on, you
Irons.